Good morning, good morning. Happy Saturday. That's called Fireside Chat, leadership, business, and real talk. So today we are going to do some real, honest, real talk today. I'm flying solo, and it's going to be a little bit different today. Uh, and that's because of a lot of things. You know, I always start the show out by asking you, how's your week? How's your week? And sharing with you a little bit about mine. This week has been for me a bit of a next level awakening, so to speak. It has been a week of really looking at what I'm doing, where I'm going, how I'm playing. Am I playing, right? And I'm going to encourage you as you listen to today, as you listen to the replay, as you listen to the shorts and the clips and all the things, see where you see yourself in this conversation, because I think that it's for a time as this, and a bunch of us are called to move in a different way, and that calling can sometimes be a little bit daunting, and but it's powerful at the same time, right? So that's been my week. How has your week been? How has your week been? So today's conversation is really to talk to the woman who has been carrying everything herself. If you're a strong, driven female entrepreneur, that's you, in case you didn't know. And this conversation is for you, because what I've come to understand, because that is me, right? What I've come to understand though is that when we carry all the things that are not ours, that is the thing that causes the challenges in our lives, whether it's health, whether it's the relationships, whether it's the business, whether it's the team, the community, whatever it is. That's the challenge, right? Everything yourself. But what if I told you? What if I told you that there is such a law that is called the law of subtraction? The law of subtraction. And that is what I stumbled upon this week. And I've been stepping into that and feeling what that looks like, and how to move in that. Because here's the thing, I am so used to having a lot of things on my plate. One of the big realizations, and get out your pens and papers, people, because the distinctions that we have held as truth. Remember, this is a Success Code Fireside Chats, and one of the things we do on the show is we debunk a lot of myths, right? So the first one I want to talk to you guys about today is the fact that building capacity means adding on more. Building capacity means adding on more. And what I learned over the last couple of weeks is that that's not true. That is not true. Building capacity actually means getting rid of things. Actually means getting rid of things. And because you get rid of things, it creates capacity, meaning it creates space. So I wanted to share that with you because it was a profound realization for me. And you may have known it already yourself, which is great, but I didn't. And so bringing this conversation, hi, Amanda. Hi, Isaac. Great to have you guys here. Thanks for listening in. Building capacity. I have learned my entire life, and share this with me in the chat if you found this as true for yourself up until now. I've learned my entire life that building capacity means, okay, how much more can I take on? Right? How much more can I take on? How much more can I put on my calendar? How much more can I do? How much more can I fill in? Right? And can you just see how living in that conversation causes you to take on even the things that are not yours to carry, right? So things like, your friend calls you up and they want you to do a favor for them, and you don't have the bandwidth to do the favor, but you say yes anyway. I'm giving a simple example so that you can see it, right? um, I don't know what you mean, Isaac. I have no clue what you're talking about. So I want you to look at where you have been taking on the things that are not yours to carry, and where you have been thinking that it's okay and this is how you get to live. I want to debunk that from your conversation. Capacity is a not taking donations. If you are thinking that you are donating something, you are not donating anything to anyone today. So let's just debunk that myth. I don't know where that's coming from. If there's something wrong with the link, I have no idea. We might have some creepers, crawlers here today. All right. So today we're talking about really shifting how we think of ourselves as individuals, how we think of ourselves in our identity, about how we move in the world as I am, right? As I am, as you are. Okay. So when you think about identity, tell me what you think. When you think about identity, what comes to mind for you? Because identity to me is who I become, who I am becoming. One of the next things that was really, really clear to me, guys, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, because we got to get rid of this. What is going on here? Give me 1 second. Okay. We got to get really clear on something is happening in YouTube that I'm not clear what it is. So I'm working on just making sure that you guys have. Okay. So your identity. My identity. I'm Jamaican. And if I'm Jamaican, everything that I do is based on the identity of being a Jamaican, right? But that's not true identity. I'm American. I'm a mom. I'm a dad. I'm a father. I'm a sister. I'm a brother. That is not true identity. Your identity is actually who you are as an individual, as a human being on this planet. And one of the things that you can even look at is, how do I figure out who I am? I believe that the conversation that we get to be in this season is the one that says, who did I come here to be? And the journey is the becoming, right? The journey is the becoming, and most of all, the remembering of who you are. And so when you think about identity, what is the thing for you that you thought was identity? Because I want to hear from you. When I'm sharing with you what I'm processing, I want to hear from you what you thought identity meant in your life as you were growing up, as you are right now, and where are you on your journey to becoming? Because becoming is the thing that is the journey for you to live through. As you move through each stage of your life, that becoming is the game, right? So let's have a real conversation today. We're not performing, we're not pretending, we're just talking, right? I'm looking at my notes to make sure I stay on track today. So here's my question to you. What identity have you been forming all this time that you are not even aware of? Because I got to tell you, part of the performance is the taking on of all the things that you thought were yours to carry that are not yours to carry, right? So answer that question for yourself. What are the performing things that you have been carrying on? You could even be, listen, y'all, you could have even been performing as a wife. You could be performing as a sister. You could be performing as a friend. Performance is the adaptation of those expectations as who you are. Let me say that one more time. Performance is the adaptation of other people's expectations as if it's who you are, right? And that is where we get tripped up. We get tripped up because then the expectation that's there is the thing that's driving the relationship. You can see where that cannot be a really good, true relationship, right? Because it's based on somebody else's expectation of how you get to show up for them. You see that? So then where are you in that conversation? See where identity comes in? Where are you in that conversation when the expectation that they have of you is not met? Where are you when that expectation isn't met, right? So when you really think about it, you can see where taking on all the things, all the things. So I want you to now ask yourself the next question. If that, what I just said is true, think about all the things that you can remove from your space. Think about all the things that you can remove from your space so that you can become who you were meant to be, so that you can remember who you are. That is to me, that's priceless. That's priceless. Priceless. So that was the first question I want to bring to your awareness. Then the second thing is, where have you been the strong one at your expense? Right? See how that question follows the second one? The first one, where have you been strong at your expense? Meaning you're holding the foundation and everybody is on top of that foundation, right? You can see how that can cause collapse, especially that weight of everybody else, right? So think about that. Where have you been being a strong one at your own expense? And your expense could be the expense could be your health, right? Which is a big thing, right? I was talking to somebody last week, and actually I was on a podcast, and we were talking, and one of the conversations that came up, I said, one of the things that I got to understand about this body, this vessel that we have as our body, is that it tells us all the things it needs to tell us, but we got to be so in tune and quiet enough to hear it, because the body's always talking to you, right? And as a part of the expense that we pay when we're out of alignment and taking on all the things that doesn't belong to us, is our health. And when the body is telling you that something is up and you're going to the doctor and the doctor is saying, no, there isn't anything wrong, that's a huge indicator that you got to stop and check and see what is happening. Let the body be your indicator of how and when to take the next step, of how and what to take on, because that's the only way you're going to find your way. That's the only way you're going to find your way. And that just eliminates a lot of the noise that's out there, right? So just check up on everything. Everything is checks and balance, right? I came from corporate America, and I was a controller in corporate America. So if I tell you everything is checks and balance, everything is checks and balance. I was the one who had to find the penny that was missing from the books at the end of the month before we could close. So when I tell you everything is checks and balance, and your body is one of those things that is at risk, because you gotta check it. You gotta check it, and that will help you balance the life. Does that make sense? All right. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is one of the things that has become really, really clear to me is how we and I'm repeating myself here because it's so important, right? How we carry things that are not our own, and it's kind of a weight. It's not it's a burden. It's a burden. It's a burden. And you can unconsciously, involuntarily carry the burden and not even realize it, right? And I'll give you an example of that. Imagine, and I'm gonna do it from a church perspective this time, and I'm not bringing Christianity in it. It's just an example of how people move, especially in the church, right? There is the church sister that will say, "Oh, I'll cook for the church every Saturday, and I will bring the food over, and I will feed everybody." And that's a burden when, one, it takes up all of her time. She doesn't have a team. She doesn't have the finances to do it. That's a burden, and you take that on under the guise of, oh, God said I should help the poor, or oh, God said I should help the people who don't have. That's one of the examples that I want to share with you guys, because when we're in that conversation and we're saying God said, but our bodies are telling us something else, then that's an indicator that we're not aligned. And here's the thing: if you hear nothing else in this conversation today, alignment is the way. I'll say it one more time. Alignment is the way. When we are aligned with our inner selves, with our innate selves, and we walk and acknowledge ourselves, we walk in alignment, and everything else flows from there. Everything's flow from there. How do I know this? Because when I'm out of alignment, nothing flows. When I'm out of alignment, nothing flows. When I'm in alignment, everything flows. It's easy. It's not that you're not doing anything, but it's easy to do it. And you're not tired, you're not exhausted, you're not using those words, you're not overwhelmed, you're not procrastinating, all those words that we're especially in a culture. You're in the state of being that you are meant to be in. That's alignment. So, what if I told you today that alignment is a new currency? Alignment is a new currency. If I told you alignment is a new currency, here's what's going to happen. You don't get to perform anymore. You don't get to take on things that are not yours anymore. You get to walk in peace. You get to ease, and so much more. Yeah. Right. So that's what I've been experiencing this week, and I wanted to share that with you guys because it's profound to me. It's profound to me, especially in this world of go 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 go. This conversation doesn't take place in that energy, right? It's an opposite energy. So it's not for the and believe me, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the faint of heart. So here's my question to you. What would it look like for you to subtract from your life as opposed to add? What would it look like for you to subtract from your life as opposed to add to your life? I would love to hear what that would look like for you. For me, it would look like spaciousness, right? There's a scripture that came up again, you do you. I'm a Jesus girl. You do you. I'm just sharing with you from to give you context. There's a scripture that says you can pour new wine into an old wineskin. Oh, when y'all, When I got this revelation, I was like, what? Listen to this. You cannot pour new wine into an old wineskin. I used to always think that that was just about the vessel, the wine bottle, right? In other words, you got to finish the wine that's in the bottle first before you can drink new wine, right? Before you buy new wine, whatever. That's just how I held it. I don't know how you held it, but that's how I held it. And then I got a revelation, y'all, that that the vessel that scripture was talking about was actually me. I was like, what? The vessel was actually me. So when I heard that, I'm like, oh, now you see how subtraction, right? So if that's the case, you cannot pour new wine into an old wine vessel. You can see where you got to remove stuff from the old vessel so that new wine can get poured in. Yeah? You have removed stuff from the old vessel so new wine can get poured in. That just means you got to remove the things, the burdens, the weights, the heaviness, the things that are not yours. Whether it's, again, the relationships, the bills, the subscriptions. If you follow me on Facebook, you hear me talking about leaks. This is exactly aligned with that. Clog the leaks, remove the things that are, because that, give me 1 second. I'm just checking my internet connection, which is perfect. So I'm not quite sure what's happening here. So if that's the case, you can see where subtraction is way better than addition. And when you subtract, you make room for things, right? And then when you're in alignment, you only make room for the things that are aligned with what you're creating. It's a whole formula, y'all. And this is why I am creating a workshop for next week. We're going to go into the subtraction principles, where I'm going to teach all the steps to support you in creating this whole framework in your life. Because I believe that successful, high achieving women, this is the conversation that we get to be in right now. Not adding more to our plate, but actually removing stuff from our plate. What would your life look like if, and this is a serious question. I actually asked myself this. What would your life look like if you removed everything as you know it right now? Yeah, scary, right? Everything you have in your life right now, as it is right now, if you removed all of it, what would your life look like? What could you create? What's possible? What's possible? You can't know that unless you really think about it, right? You can't know that unless you really say to yourself, wow, that's a deep question. What if everything I have that I know, that I'm accustomed to, that I'm attached to, and that's all the stuff that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about detachment in that workshop, because I think that that's one of the things that holds us back, is our attachment to stuff and our inability to detach from stuff. It doesn't allow for space for anything else to come through. All right. So this is a deep one. And I want to make sure I say this one in the conversation, because it's a serious one, especially for high achieving women and driven female entrepreneurs like I. What would your life look like if you stop rescuing people? What would your life look like if you stop rescuing people? I gotta tell y'all, truth. I was a rescuer, and I didn't even know it. Oh my gosh, I didn't know it. I did not know that I was a rescuer. I'm gonna give you an example, a simple example that actually proved it. So the other day I'm walking, and where I walk, there's a guy who walks his dogs, 2 dogs. And as if you guys know anything about energy, the 2 dogs, one of them, he never, ever, 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 ever comes up to me for me to pet him. And the second one was always the lagger, lag behind. And I noticed that from the first time I met these guys, right? And the second one would always come to me for me to pet him. And I'm like, why is this? The first one never, never, ever, ever comes to me. And when I came into the realization that I was a rescuer, I shifted my energy. And a couple of days afterwards, I'm walking, and the dog who always avoided me came up to me for me to pet him. And the one that I was always petting and nurturing and rescuing, he walked away because I shifted my energy, right? That's just a simple example, but I could give examples like, people come to me and ask me to support them in ways that are nurturing, and I would give it away for free. So here's the part that I want y'all to hear, and all the people who give away stuff for free all the time. It's being a rescuer is being like, and this is confession time. This is confession time. This is real talk. Being a rescuer is your way of being approved. You're seeking approval. You're seeking approval. Can you see how, by subtracting that from your way of being, by subtracting that from your life, can you see how that could open you up to so much more? Stop waiting for people to approve you. Stop being the rescuer. It's a game changer, y'all. It's a game changer. So I want to encourage you. I know this one was a little bit deep, a little bit heavy today. And it is so for a reason, because we're going through a season and time right now where this is how we're going to get strong. This is how we're going to get strong. And by the way, strength is not power. They're two different things. Strength is not power. Strength is when you are able to stand in the storm, right? And your power actually comes from the strength, right? And power doesn't mean overbearing or anything like that. Power just means, it's a knowing, it's a stance, right? That comes from strength. So subtracting will strengthen the foundation, right? Subtracting will strengthen the foundation so that you can walk in alignment that's lighter and easier to carry. So that's all I got for you all this week. Let me see. Let me make sure I got all of it. So here's what I wanted to tell you guys. You guys are energy, high octane female entrepreneur. This conversation is for you. Let's have a deeper conversation in the subtraction principle intensive that's coming up this Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Put it in the chat if you want the link to join that experience, because it's going to change your life. That much I can promise you, that it will change your life. And outside of that, post in the comments what you're taking away from today's conversation. Post in the comments what you're taking on in terms of the questions that you're going to ask yourself. And do come back and share as you re-listen to this conversation what comes up for you, what you're going to change, what you're going to implement. And let's talk. Let's keep the conversation going, because I believe that this is how we're going to change the consciousness of the planet. And as women, we are called to do so. So go out there and be you. But the only way to be you is to take away the stuff that you were not meant to carry, right? So like, subscribe, and share this episode. And I will see you next week. Bye, y'all. What was going on?